Now, some hope there as rescuers in Syria find a child alive amid all that destruction. And for more on this earthquake, Dr. Januka Attanayake, he joins us live from Melbourne, Australia. He's a research fellow of Earthquake Seismology School of Earth Sciences at the University of Melbourne. Well, Dr. Januka, first up, perhaps you can explain to us this earthquake in a way that even non-seismologists like us can understand. Why is Turkey seen as a hotbed of seismic activity?
It's a very complicated tectonic system that you have around around Turkey, because there are like 4 or 5 tectonic plates crashing into each other or passing each other. So as a result of that, there's a lot of crustal movement is occurring in the region that is that is surrounding Turkey, and as a result of that, we see that these earthquakes are occurring. In particular, there are 2 main fault lines that are cutting Turkey into pieces. One is the northern Anatolian fault, which is the main focus that has been within the research community. But it appears that this particular earthquake occurred on a different fault line, which we call the eastern Anatolian fault. But it's one of the largest earthquakes to occur in Turkey in the recent past.
That's right, since 1939, I believe. And as you've mentioned about these main fault lines, typically, an earthquake of such magnitude at 7.8, there have already been a number of aftershocks. How many more aftershocks can we expect? And also, what are some of the dangers, that can arise from these aftershocks, potentially fatalistic ones?
Absolutely. Aftershocks in a scenario like this can be very fatalistic, because the 7.8 earthquake has already damaged buildings. We know that Turkey's building codes are not up to scratch. Like, if you go to a place like Japan, we know that the building codes are extremely tight, and they built to those building codes, but not so in Turkey. So the 7.8 was a fairly strong shake. And we expect aftershocks to be, going on for a couple of weeks or even months. It's very difficult to predict the magnitude of these aftershocks. We expect, however, based on the aftershock that occurred 10 minutes after the main shock of 6.7, it's possible that, magnitude 6s can occur, but we don't have records of a magnitude 6 yet. But we see that the earth aftershocks are occurring throughout the night and into the day.
Right, and Dr. Januka, and you've mentioned you can't really predict, the magnitude of these aftershocks. But in terms of the damage base we have seen so far and potential aftershocks coming along, what are the best and worst case scenarios here for Turkey?
So the best case scenario will be no aftershocks of magnitude 6 or greater. We hope that will be the case. We can't rule out another magnitude 6 aftershock or a couple of magnitude 6s, but we hope that the best case scenario will be very low magnitude earthquake aftershocks, let's say less than magnitude 4. But that's not a prediction. That's the best case scenario. The worst case scenario will be another aftershock of in the high 6s in terms of magnitude, because, like I said, the buildings have been already damaged. We wonder whether these damaged buildings can withstand another aftershock of high magnitude, in the high 6s. So that would be possibly the worst case scenario that will hamper the rescue missions really, really badly.
Now, in terms of, the latest in earthquake prediction and early warning systems, I'm wondering, how does this latest earthquake, fit into that?
Yeah, so the prediction, the P word, we never use in earthquake science. We can never predict earthquakes. We can only forecast the probability of an earthquake occurring within a certain amount of time. Usually that time window is in decades. For example, if you look at a place like California, we have certain probabilities established for a three-decade time period. Similarly, Turkey it's not like Turkey hasn't experienced magnitude 7.8 or high 7 earthquakes. There have been a series of earthquakes that have been occurring in Turkey since 1939, as you mentioned earlier in the program. But almost all these earthquakes have occurred in the northern Anatolian fault line, like I said, and therefore the authorities have been expecting a magnitude 7 or high, very damaging earthquake in that part of the country. But the Eastern Anatolian fault, as I mentioned, has received less focus, I believe. But we see that, even that fault line is capable of producing a magnitude 7.8. So all in all, these two fault lines are pretty dangerous. That is what the earthquake record tells us. There's no prediction, but there's a forecast. And the magnitude 7 is a pretty, dangerous earthquake that could occur in either of these fault lines.
Right. Well, thanks very much for explaining it to us in a way that most of us can understand, I'm sure. Thanks very much, Dr. Januka Attanayake from the University of Melbourne.